That's lovely. 'Cause you're nice and defined, and you look like you're ready to tell us some spiritual stories. Mhm.
Yay.
Yeah. Let me
Okay.
let me start. Let me start asking you these questions. So, the idea of whether or not you believe in God or a higher power, what sort of beliefs do you have generally about what's happening around us?
So I definitely believe believe in a God. I don't necessarily follow certain religious tenets. I've kind of have my own idea, but there's something more than what we see. I don't know if you want to call it a life beyond. I really believe we're all made of energy, and what happens is all related to energy, and it's something that can't be destroyed. So when we pass, it's just a new form. And God is this manifestation of this energy, and we join him somehow or her, and we become a part of the greater whole. And I think that's kind of where we come to when we come and talk about religion.
And does that give you comfort in your life when you have hard times in your life or things don't go according to plan? Does it give you a bit of comfort to believe that?
It does. It makes me realize there's something else, it's not just the end when we die. Um, and because of the experiences I've had, it's just kind of solidified that and made it more real and more.
It just fascinates me why some people have these coincidences and some people don't seem to notice them or give them any, sort of power or give them any meaning. So, thinking about the coincidences, when you were growing up as a child, did you have any beliefs around coincidences or superstitions when you were younger?
Um, I think one of the big superstitions I had were lights. I always had to have working lights, and I used to have nightmares about like lights wouldn't come on, like that I would be in a dark room and I couldn't get the light on. Um, and I don't know if that was my frightened of the dark, but that was like my big fear when I was a kid. But I never felt afraid of the dark, but there was always something in the dark.
So, oh, yeah, I know. I can completely understand that feeling. It's a fear, isn't it? And being scared that you don't know where the switch is. Have you ever been,
Mhm.
oh, have you ever done that? I do it all the time. I turn the light off and I'm standing in the dark and then I think, oh no, I'm not ready to get into bed yet and I have to put the light back on. It's so stupid, isn't it? I'm telling this story and thinking, what an idiot. But this is what I do. I turn the light off in the hall and then realize I'm standing in the dark and I haven't turned the light on in the bedroom yet, honestly. And then I go in the bedroom, turn the light on, I have to come back in the hall, turn it off. Stupid ritual. I've only done it recently.
Mhm.
So let's start with the list as I sent it to you.
Yes.
Thinking about dreaming. Have you had
Mhm.
any significant dreams or any premonition type dreams?
I don't have dreams per se that are premonitions. I have feelings. So, for instance, when I was younger, was a teenager, we were celebrating like good report cards or something, and we were out to eat. And I was in the car with my parents and my two brothers, and all of a sudden, just dread, overwhelming dread. Something was wrong. And we pull into our house, and to kind of explain how our house is, we had a garage and there's a breezeway that's open, and then the house. And my parents had like a bay window that peeked out. And we pull in, and I was the first out of the car. I still have this feeling, and I'm going, oh, what's wrong? What's wrong? It's the first time I've ever had this. And I look, and there is someone staring back at me in the window, and I go catatonic. I can't move. I can't say anything. I just see this person, and he saw me. And my brother comes up, my older brother comes up, and he kind of is like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I can't answer him. And so he runs, he looks and he sees the same person. He runs and starts trying to beat down the door. And then that's when we hear our alarm go off. And I don't know why, but when the alarm went off, I just moved. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it started moving. Our house was being robbed. And then I had that same kind of feeling again.
Lunch.
My younger brother, he was out getting us food, and my older brother had come home from college. So I was sitting in the house, and my parents were off at a party And obviously this is before cell phones. And I'm sitting there, and my brother, my older brother, comes up to me and I said, our younger brother's been too long. I'm like, there's something wrong. He hasn't come home yet. And he looks at me like I'm crazy. And he's like, well, how long did it go? I'm like, 15 minutes. He's like, what's wrong with you? And just then the phone rings. My brother had been in a car accident. I mean, thank God he was okay. The car wasn't, but he was okay. And that it's just these little things that have happened in life. And it's happened a couple more times.
And a couple more times. Go on.
Mm-hmm.
What were the other two times that you can you remember the other times?
Um,
How old were you the first two times?
um, so the first time I was probably about 12, 13. The next time, okay, so my brother would have been driving, so I would have been 18. And the next time I would probably say I was about 20. And it was also, this one was about my older brother. I was lying in bed at a friend's house. I mean, it was the middle of the day. I was just lying there, and all of a sudden I hear his name scream out in my head. And I wake up and I'm panicked. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. And then then I was calm. And see, it kind of weirds me out. So sorry. I found out later he had gotten into a car accident again. He had hit a deer. And I think it was that moment when he hit the deer that I heard his name. And then when he got out of the car and he was fine, like I just knew he was fine. There's no controlling these things. It comes and goes. I just, a lot of times I'll get that feeling, and my husband understands. I'll go up to him and I'll be like, okay, I have that feeling. You have to calm me down. We have to figure out why I have that feeling again. And so there's been times I've had it that I can't directly coordinate it with something that has happened. But a lot of times he just understands. It's like
It's an
something
absolute,
bad might have happened,
but it's an
know?
absolute super skill, isn't it? It's an absolute gift to have. It really
Um,
is.
Sometimes it is a gift, but it also, it's because I can't control it. I can't see it. I can't know. Sometimes it's very frustrating. So
Yeah, but it's just like having super alert, isn't it? A super antennae that's letting you know what's happening a long distance away. So how far away was your brother when he had the accident from you?
so he used to live on the other side of the state I lived in. So probably, I think about 300 miles, several hours away. Yeah.
That's as far as you can get in the UK. If you go from London to 300 miles, you get to the other side of the island. That's a long way, right?
That was like across Kansas. Yeah.
Unbelievable, isn't it? And so, when you were younger, did your mum or your dad ever notice that there was anything slightly different about you compared to your brothers? Did they know that you had this sort of awareness or in tune with things?
They don't believe in any of this.
Oh, so are you the black sheep of the family?
I am. My mom, I was telling her about being on this podcast, and she just like rolled her eyes. And then she sent me this thing about ghost at the hotel that they had just stayed at. And she's like, well, you'll probably find this funny because they just stayed at a haunted hotel.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. What, on purpose?
no, it was an older hotel, and they went to Boston. Um, but they don't believe in it. So we're
So
staying at
they
an old.
found out that it was haunted after, or they sort of knew, but they didn't care. So some people pay extra to go to haunted houses, don't they? But they just sort of strolled in and went to her and just didn't care. Nothing happened to them. No. Mm,
Exactly. I
okay.
would have been like, oh, I would have picked that room, that hall, Um, yeah. It's just one of those hotels in Boston. So it's an older hotel, and they just advertise, hey, this is a
I've
haunted.
seen a YouTube channel. I've seen a YouTube about it. Yeah, I know. Wow,
Mhm.
that's interesting. So thinking about your gift, because I see it as a gift, and so you're the spiritual one pretty much in the home, and everyone else is just running around doing their life, and you're over here having little weird experiences of your own. So I guess sometimes you probably didn't tell people that they were happening.
Yeah. When I'm growing up, I never really did. I had a big moment with my niece when she was in the hospital and she was passing away. She was born with a lot of birth defects. Um, and I've never really been able to share it with my brother. And it's been kind of a sad thing because he doesn't believe in it. Um,
Is this your brother's daughter?
yeah, my elder brother's daughter, the one that was in the car
The one
accident
that was in
with
the
the.
car accident?
Mhm.
Oh,
and and so I think that's sad because I find comfort in what happened in that experience. And
is that something you want to talk about?
oh, I can talk about it. So what's funny though is I married my husband who is very spiritual, and he comes from a family that has his father has premonitions. His mother
Right.
completely believed in the spiritual. So it was fun actually having somebody I could talk to about these things.
What a
Um,
relief. Yeah.
Absolutely. And our son actually has, I think he has a very deep connection with the other world. And so this happened when I was pregnant with him. And I had some of the craziest things happen when I was pregnant with him. And so this would be about a month before he was born. So I was heavily
What
pregnant.
what year was this?
2009.
2009.
And this would have happened in November. No, it was 2 months before he was born. It was October of 2009. And she was in the hospital in the NICU. She has all the cords and everything. And I go in and I had started to see auras. I could just look at a person and see the aura around them. I had never seen anything like that before or since. It was only when I was pregnant with him.
Hey,
And
that's interesting, isn't it?
it is fascinating. I couldn't believe it. Here I am seeing these things. Um, and with her aura, I wish I could paint it. It was so beautiful. It just surrounded her. It was this golden light with little shimmers and gold, and it just enveloped her. And through my research after this, because I was here, what do these colors mean? It meant that she was surrounded by angels. And it made her death and her passing so much easier just to know she went with our loved ones. She was there, she was surrounded. And knowing that that's where she goes, that there is a place. And that's what I hate about not being able to share with my brother, because he doesn't believe that. He thinks once you're dead, you're dead. And I'm like, no, she's there. And she was surrounded and she was loved. Our grandmother had passed, and um, my sister-in-law's mother had passed. I know that they were the ones that were there. It was a very, it helped. It really helped to know that.
Really surreal experience and not
Oh
to be
yeah,
able to
sorry.
share it.
All right.
Yeah, I can imagine. And to be able to see that, it's such a shame we can't take photos of it, isn't it? You know,
Oh yeah, because I think it would give people hope if they could
definitely.
look at that.
And comfort people, especially with children. It's so hard, isn't it? Because they're such a little spirit and they're so vulnerable, and you want them to see them grow, and then you have to let go of them. It's just so unnatural. It's the most unnatural thing in the world, isn't it, to have
Oh
a child
yes.
pass?
Um, and it was especially hard because it was supposed to be two cousins, that they were supposed to have similar birthdays, and that they were supposed to grow up together, and here they are not.
Oh,
So there's kind of that hole. Um, yeah.
massive loss, isn't it? But you having that memory of that experience sort of has got you through that bit.
Yes, absolutely. It totally got me through that bit, and it has helped me really understand what loss means and everything else. So to me, I never viewed it when I was younger as a gift. As I've gotten older, I've realized absolutely what this means. I've often been told by people who were psychic, people who could understand that, they were like, your great journey in this lifetime is that you will struggle with spirituality. And I feel like this has been something that has been handed to me to help me deal with what my great task in this life is.
Okay, that's interesting. Have you, now you may or may not have stumbled upon the purpose of your spiritual calling yet, because sometimes that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't happen until people are much, much older.
Mm-hmm.
But some people are aware of it from a very young age. They get a calling to help people, they get a calling to be of service, they get a calling to be an art therapist or to be child healer with energy and music or whatever. And it comes to people. Have you had your sort of epiphany that says, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be doing that? Yeah.
I am a teacher, so that's just kind of been my calling and probably why I was attracted to the field.
Hello, darling. Is there another little creature? Hello.
Yes, I have
Hello. What is
several
this? What
cats.
is this?
This is Luna. She came to us during the eclipse we had. So she's
She didn't. Are you joking? Look, you see my little tattoo? She came to
yeah.
you during the eclipse. See my little black cat tattoo, right? Because in England the black cat is a lucky symbol. It's not an unlucky symbol. So I used to think every time I see a black cat, I'm going to have a lucky day. And then I thought, well, I might as well just have a tattoo put on because then I'll have a lucky day every day. How lovely. How beautiful. I'm so happy you've got a beautiful little creature there to look after you
I
and for
actually
you
have.
to look after her. Mm.
Oh
You've got
yes, I
three of
actually have
them.
3 of them. Yeah.
Did they
I'm
find you, the others? Were they part of the cat distribution network? Were they just found you?
and I adopted 2 of them from a local shelter, and then the other one, my brother moved to Hawaii, um, and they couldn't take the
That's a
cat.
very spiritual place. Hawaii, isn't it? Hawaii is a very, is the offers the one of the world's most spiritual places.
It's gorgeous.
And yet he's not spiritual and he's gone to Hawaii.
Mm, it's a shame. It really is.
So he went to Hawaii and he couldn't take the cat, but he knew you would look after the cat.
Mhm. I couldn't let it just go to somebody. I'm that's the kind of person I'm like, I will take it.
Family. It's family. Now, well, that's a very fortunate cat, I have to tell you. Okay, so thinking about the strange, unexplained experiences,
Mhm.
like bumping into people, when they're out of town on holiday or anything like that. Has anything like that happened to you?
I actually had come to London for um, a high school trip, and I was um, where they have the shows. I can never remember
Is
that
it what in the
name.
West End?
Yeah, I was in the West End, and we were waiting to get tickets to Phantom of the Opera. And I turn around, and there's my best friend's parents. They had flown over, and they were in England, and I mean, like
No.
it's a massive city to meet
10
right
million
there.
people there, 10 million people all milling about, and you've come from thousands of miles away. Did you know they were going to be in England?
I did know that they were going to be in England, but still the coincidence of
No,
meeting right there. It's
no.
crazy. And that, oh, and then it happened again when I was traveling in 2023. This past summer, I was in Lucerne, Switzerland, and I turn around and there's my coworker.
You go on holiday to get away from them. Oh my goodness.
Luckily,
No.
I really like her. So, and yeah, and it was just like to be there at the exact same time, especially because she had this miserable time, like they were delayed and all of this. We had known that there was a chance we would meet up in this place because that's where they were flying into. But no, there she was, right on the street.
It just blows my mind that because think about it, if you'd said to her, okay, I'll meet you in Switzerland, everyone would have laughed at you. Don't be stupid. As if you're going to meet up there, you have to make plans. You have to have a time. You have to have a day, an hour, It doesn't happen. And yet you don't make the plan. And there you are.
Yep. It was really funny.
It's just
Um,
unbelievable. It is unbelievable, isn't it?
it
And it's not
is.
like you've just come from Italy and gone to Switzerland. You've come from America, pair of you. You've come halfway around the world to Switzerland.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable. But do you get that feeling of deja vu ever?
Um, Not really deja vu. Serendipity happens a lot,
Go on.
but
What
not.
do you have things with numbers or coincidental names or anything like that?
It's just something that my husband and I will be talking about, and 24 hours later, it comes up again and it happens again. And we laugh all the time. We call it the Serendipity Field. He introduced me to the concept. I didn't understand it until we met. And then, yeah, it's just one of those, I can't even, it's happened so frequently. I can't even think of a
Is it the
specific.
sort of thing where you're driving along and one of you says, "Oh, do you remember that time we went on those hay bales?" And then you get home and there's a television program talking about how they make hay bales, things like that.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just be, uh, there's this song we love, we'll be listening to, and we're like, oh, that's great. I wonder about Elton John, right? And then the next day, Elton John's everywhere. He's on the news. He's on the, and it's kind of like just a common joke for us because it
But
just
you
happens
see,
so.
does your husband feel like he's picking the information up from the energy field, or do you feel like it's there because you've been talking about it?
I think it's something that floats around us as kind of the best way to describe it. He is, while he is spiritual, he has no connection. Um, the only thing he has are these funny little serendipitous moments. He embraces what I've seen and heard. I will tell him, "Hey, guess what? I had this experience again," and he'll understand it, and he looks at it as, "Oh, well, this is really cool." Um, but like I said, he grew up with his two parents that were very, very spiritual. Um, I don't think we've ever dove into why it happens. We laugh that it happens. If that makes
Okay,
sense.
so for him it's just natural like breathing because he's always been brought up with it. But for you, it's not quite as natural. But
Mm-hmm.
neither of you have given any specific meaning to specific things that happen. You know, the way that I have, I've given meaning to being asked for directions, bumping into people that you know. And
Mm-hmm.
I think, oh, this is a spiritual event happening here. I've got an opportunity to be the best person that I can be, or to be of service, or to be helped. Something's happening here. To be aware of it when it's happening. So you haven't gone that far where you think, oh, I've been reminded of something that happened in 2009. That must have something to do with what was happening at that time. Is the same sort of thing about to be happening now? For instance, like a house move or a job move or a loss of a friend or something changing in your little energy world. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. I feel like I have moments in my life where I needed to be there. Um, and so I don't question. I feel like the universe moves us around and puts us where we need to be at that moment, whether it is a move or something. And so here's one of those highlighted moments. Um, my kids were little, and we have a front yard and a backyard. And I went to go tell them, yeah, it's time to come in because it was late in the summer, so it was kind of late in the evening. And I don't know why I felt compelled to walk out the front door. I knew they were in the backyard, but I walked out the front yard to look for them. And as I'm walking out in the front yard, I hear these little footsteps and I see this little boy running down our street. There's no sidewalk on this side. He's literally running in the street. And I walk out and I say, "Hey, buddy, what you doing?" And this boy was probably 2 years old, not verbal at all. I look at him and he's breathing heavily. He had run a long time. And I scoop him up and pick him up just like a mom does. And and I'm like, "What's your name?" And he just kind of gives me some garbled answers. Um, it wasn't until later when he said, "Uh-oh." So um, there's this sweet boy. I mean, you can tell he's well loved. He had the cutest glossy curls and everything else. And I thought, well, maybe he ran ahead of mom and dad. They're going to be running down the street any minute. And minutes pass and pass and pass, and nobody's coming. And I'm looking at my husband going, "What's going on?" Um, we get to the point that we're about to call 911 to have the police come because obviously this boy has gotten out. And just then we hear some yelling and we go closer. And what had happened, this little boy had crossed this huge road that is heavily trafficked, there's always people speeding on it. He managed to cross over that road and not be hurt. Um, Down the
And
street,
find you. And
oh,
you found him.
exactly. I mean, like down the street, there's a pond. I mean, there's so many things that could have happened. This is close to
He could
night.
have turned around and gone back.
Exactly. And as it turned out, he was at a party. Kids were running in and out of the house. Little brother snuck out. And this little brother is a runner. He's the next Usain Bolt. He's just fleeing down the road. I mean, it was the total accident. It was the worst moment and the best moment of their lives. I see his brother, he's running, and his cousins. And I go down and I'm like, I need to walk with you. I just want to make sure he comes to an adult. Because I know this little kid's an escape artist, I'm like, I want to hand him off. So I'm walking down the street with him. And then all of a sudden this car pulls up and it's his uncle. And he just has that horror. I felt so bad for him. Like that utter relief, but at the same time, like you're coming down from all this. And I'm like, hey, he's in good hands. And here you go. And he put him in the car and they drove off. And I often think of that family. They're probably like that crazy lady. But
Probably thinking, thank God that woman found him. Aren't they? They're probably so grateful for you, and they probably really want to thank you and all sorts. But then, because they're in a state of shock, they didn't stop to think, well, who was she? What was her name? What can we do to thank her? Because people are usually so grateful, but the gratitude doesn't come up until later. And then you see the Twitter post, we'd like to thank that wonderful person that saved our son. We're grateful to you for life. You could change their life because they will have all those thoughts about what could have gone wrong.
oh yeah, I wish I could have seen the mom, and as a mom to give her a big hug and say it's okay. The universe is watching out for your baby, and also to say to the kids, it's not your fault. It just because
kids do that. Kids are wild.
And that's when. So the brother was coming, and the brother was running up, and he just so really like touched his younger brother, and the baby. That's when he goes. He sees him, he goes, uh-oh, and he like hides his face into me. And I'm like, you're in trouble.
Oh my goodness.
So
That's amazing, isn't it? All because you acted on a hunch. And did it feel sort of like automatically walking towards the front door? And you were thinking, why am I walking towards the front door? Or were you just doing it like in an automatic state?
well, I mean, as I'm walking out the front door, I'm like, they're in the backyard. Why am I walking in the front yard? And I felt compelled to do this. And I believe the universe moves in this way, that whomever was looking after this little boy was like, someone needs to stop him. Oh, look, you're walking out. Let's drag you out here to do this. Because it's always those people in that right moment at that right time. I've worked with
Oh,
students.
hold on. What's making a noise? Is something making a noise? Oh, it stopped now. Go on.
Oh, my
Is it
phone
somebody
started ringing.
calling?
So
There we
I
go. Who's calling you? See, I love that. And this is to me, that's synchronicity. It says there's somebody calling you that's picking up on these thoughts that you're sending out as you're talking.
I'd like to think that, but I think it's actually a spam.
Sales.
I'm like, yeah. But I've had these moments with my students. I've had some students who've come to me expressing difficulties that they're having in their life. And it's like, normally I would have been gone by that time, but they somehow needed me, and I was there for when they needed me to be there. And so, yeah, it's like it confirms my choice of profession. It confirms these things that I've done and why I've done the things that I've done. I feel like I am somebody to be moved around and presented in certain places.
It's incredible that you've got that level of flexibility, because a lot of people just have not got that.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And just can't be flexible in that way because they need a logical reason. Well, why would I go out the front door? No, I'm going out the back door. I just wouldn't, they would argue with themselves not doing it.
Yes, exactly. I I love letting the universe direct me, and I think that's kind of how I view myself. I'm a vessel. Do with me what you need.
That's
So
incredible. Yeah, that is very highly spiritual. See, to me, that's very highly spiritually evolved. Not to need a plan, not to need a sort of, well, this was my goal and this gives me satisfaction and reward, so I'm going to go and become a vicar or whatever. You're
yeah.
there being a teacher and you know that you can be that spiritual person at the right time. It's just
Mhm.
incredible that you've managed to do that. So thinking about life in danger. So you've managed to save people. This is when I know, because I always ask this question, have you been saved or rescued? And then when I know I've got a spiritual person, when they say, oh no, but I've rescued someone else. And I think, yes, that is what's happening, right? Because it is lovely to be rescued because you know you're
Uh-huh.
the person on the receiving end of somebody being in the right place at the right time to help you. But being the other person that's able to save someone is incredible, isn't it?
It's such a gift. I mean, it's amazing to know that I might have saved somebody's life. You
You've
know,
saved
it's just,
you've saved loads of people's lives because that one child that you saved, you don't know
mhm.
the amount of people's lives that would have been destroyed if anything had happened to him. That was more than one person.
Oh yeah, that whole family.
That whole family, everyone they knew, their whole community, everyone they was at school with.
Exactly.
That's hundreds of people. So has anyone ever saved you? Hmm. It's good.
No.
Don't tell them that.
I'm trying to think. I don't think I've ever had that moment in particular. I've had weird things that have happened. Like I remember one time a car, I was getting ready to go forward on a green light, and some reason I hesitated, and a car comes flying through a red light. I mean, had I gone through, I would have died. You know, I have moments in time like that. Um, so I'd like to think maybe my spirit guide or my guardian angel, whatever you want to call it, has maybe interceded a few dozen times. But not one person in particular I can remember has done something that would have saved my life.
Have you ever actually seen a car accident in front of you?
Yes, several.
Have you?
Um, yes, thank goodness nothing where anybody has been severely injured, but there's been several times where there was two on a highway and both involving dump trucks of all things. I avoid
Interesting.
dump trucks. Well, I think that
Interesting.
they
To me,
don't
that's
have
the
good
car.
brakes. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, but what are the chances of them both being in front of you on your path? Not really.
Yeah, well, one was in front and one was behind. I remember the one behind really well because I was with my mom and I looked at her and I said, we're about to be hit. Brace yourself. And I'm watching the woman behind us. So there's a dump truck, this lady, and us. And this poor lady, she was taking a big drink of water right when it happened. And I was like, because I could see it. I was watching it in my rear view. And I this poor woman. And I was like, oh my God. And this she must have pressed on the brake instead of releasing it. Because if she had released it, she would have hit us, but she did not. And then thank goodness she was in a big vehicle. When while I'm sure she was hurt, she survived. But we couldn't stop. We were in the middle of a highway and traffic. I mean,
So you
so
saw
we
it in your rear view mirror, looking back. And what
looking
is
back.
that telling you? When you look at the symbolism of that, it's like when you look back, you can see things. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, do you ever live
Yeah,
your life and then you look back on what happened and think, oh yeah, that happened?
I know. I never thought of it that way. It's
I know,
kind
I'm
of
sorry. I know it's my symbolic mind like to try and put meaning to it. Why would you see this thing in the rearview mirror, And you were a split second away from being that car. You were one car away from that being you.
mm-hmm. I hadn't even thought of that. I just I feel like I have a little bit of luck is the way I would say.
A little bit. That's quite a lot from the sounds of it.
That's quite a lot about luck. Because there was another time there was a car and he pulled out because there's two cars in one of those cars lanes where you can turn. and he pulled out across his lanes of traffic and across this turn lane, and there was a car and there was me, and that car was able to go over, but I was next to a car and a curb, like I couldn't move anywhere, and he just keeps coming and coming and coming, and he's going like 5 miles an hour, and we're going quite a bit faster, and I'm just pushing my brake all the way down, and I miss him by a hair. It was a hair. I mean, I had missed him so closely that I actually stopped the full vehicle and just was like, okay, I can breathe. I didn't die. But it was like, it's those moments that make me think, gee, you're kind of lucky. You missed it. So.
Mm. See, for me, I like to analyze all the things that happened. Like, who was the person? What was he driving? What color was the car? What was his name? Who do you know called that name that's you need to phone up because of that? It's that. But I don't suppose you did all that.
No, I think I cursed a lot.
Did,
um,
did you just
but
swearing at him rather than getting his name and saying you're all right, mate? Yeah.
exactly. But it also, I feel like those are lessons to me. Slow down,
Slow down.
be careful, be more cautious. And I feel like that's the lesson I'm being taught. I do take it as a lesson.
Slow
Mhm.
down in life. So slow down with you're trying to do too much too quickly. And so then you have a near miss, you read that as, oh, I need to slow up here because otherwise I could come a cropper.
Exactly. Be aware of your surroundings. I mean, those are those things that I take it as.
Oh, and also to pay more attention. Is that how you see it? Be more aware of what's going on and stop putting your mind in a place of worrying about what you're having for dinner, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Because I was young, I was college age. I was stupid. Let's be honest, and and I think that's all gone into who I am as a person today, and really being realizing things should move slower, and you take what's dealt to you, but there's a reason behind these things.
I mean,
So,
so would you say you're a patient person?
when I need to be. I might check on my Amazon order a few too many times. I'm mostly a patient. I'm more. I think what this has taught me is to be more forgiving and understanding and compassionate, which I think are things
What
that all
for the other person, you mean?
for the other person, for myself, giving myself grace is something I had to learn. But I definitely teaching me understanding, like when I found the little boy, my instinct was, what must the mother be feeling, and how much I wanted her to understand everything was okay, her son was okay, and worried more over her, because this little boy, he was fine. He went on an adventure, but her, like her and his older brother, and like that was where I went. And I think it's given me a chance to really look out in the universe and understanding that the importance of smiling at people and being kind all the time and being compassionate. And, if someone's having a bad day, just being like, I'm still going to meet your aggression, your anger with infinite amounts of compassion and understanding, of realizing that you shouldn't be fighting people because you don't know where they're coming from, what's affecting them. And that maybe, just maybe, you were put in that place. You don't know it, but you were put in that place and that time and that experience to give them something that they were needing. And that's how I look at the greater world. Um, and I think I've learned that the universe has a plan for me. I'm just going along for whatever they're going to throw at me, versus looking for the reasons why. And I just think it's just different philosophies on how.
Yeah, it's just amazing to me that you can be so free and
Uh-huh.
trusting. You're trusting of the universe that the universe is going to deliver. Do you ever feel like the universe delivers you unexpected good things?
Yes, sometimes it's something comes up and you get a check in the mail for no reason whatsoever, and then
That actually happened to you? Have you actually had that happen to you?
oh yeah, sometimes like I've overpaid on something
Oh, okay.
months ago and I
An
didn't know it.
unexpected refund. Hmm.
Yeah, and you're like, I really could use this $20. Thank you very much. I'm not gonna get the lottery or anything like that, but
But why not? Why not? It might happen
I'd
to
have
you.
to
You've
play
got
it.
this amount of luck. Well, you've got to start playing it then, I think. This level of luck you've got, I think you're probably, on the receiving end of something big here. If I were you, I'd start doing the lottery because you've got to be in it to win it, right?
That's true. I mean, I'm not gonna win it if I'm not playing.
No. And imagine how many people you could help if you'd won the lottery.
I okay, this sounds weird.
Mm.
I think part of where I am in life is humility, and um, my successes are only ever going to be small. That's what the universe has taught me a long time ago. So I could play the lottery. I don't think I won't win it. I won't win big prizes. I won't have great things like huge recognition.
You could win a big amount of money and do lots and lots of small things with it.
That's true. That's true. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like I feel like I'm destined for these little things. Um, and I love it. I've actually learned to love and embrace these little moments of excitement.
It's amazing, isn't it? Really, that's what I mean by the spiritual path that you're on. You find this
Uh-huh.
a lot with people because I had a thought there and now it's gone. Hold on, what was I thinking about you with the little things? It's the importance and bring giving meaning. That's right. I was thinking, did you have to learn humility?
Yes, that's one of the lessons that the universe has decided I needed. Um, as a child, I just thought I'm going to have these great, amazing, wonderful things. And what I thought was these expectations, I'm going to be the first woman, whatever. I'm going to be rich and have a rich husband and live in a big, but the universe taught me that a success is small.
But
The
there are more
success,
important things. There are more important things, aren't there, than having a massive status or something shiny to look at what I've done materially. It's like, well, look what I've done spiritually, though. That's, you can't measure that.
exactly, exactly. It's like I helped a kid who was suicidal. It's his life I saved that matters. Um, and he's doing great things. He's doing amazing things.
And
And
again, you
I
didn't just save his life, you saved the lives of people around him that would have been destroyed.
exactly. And whereas I got recognition from the people who were directly involved in that, I'm not in the newspaper. I'm not, and I'm happy to know that every now and then they may think of me, and that's the recognition. His success in life, whatever he does, and whoever he becomes, that is my reward.
Yeah. And all the people that he touches, that's
And
hundreds of people in his life that he wouldn't have had those connections with if it hadn't been for you.
exactly, and that's how I look at things. I look at those that paying it forward. It's like I don't expect something, and that's what's taught me humility. That you pay it forward. That these things happen to you for a greater good that you don't understand, and then you just accept it. And as a result, the reward is greater for me.
That's
It's
how
an
I see. I know this to be true. I absolutely know that to be true as you're saying it. And yet at the same time, I'm thinking, hold on a minute. I want to see some karma, please. I'm at that stage. I want to see some karma. Come on. Whereas and it is true, if you don't talk about the things that you know that you've done for people, the reward is greater. And if you talk about all the things, you don't get a reward. That is the reward. The fact that you talk about the stuff, that's the reward.
Exactly.
But I know this to be true. What you're saying is absolutely resonating with me completely. So, thinking about more rescue situations, have you ever found yourself on the receiving end of really terrible weather?
Yeah, you actually sent your questions
It's my
shortly
question.
after we had a tornado.
Ah, oh,
Um, so, but going into the luck thing, I've been through a hurricane. I've been through, I think, two tornadoes, small tornadoes, but it's like we're lucky ultimately. It's like the universe
luck.
decides we're going to
Not
have this
luck.
horrible weather,
It's not luck.
but
It isn't luck.
I don't know. It's the way I look at it. It's like, okay, let me tell you, the tornado knocked down a massive tree that knocked down a utility pole in our back because we share a backyard, and we lost electricity for like 3.5 days. But in this, we're hearing all this hitting our house, and there's this horrible sound of something giant hitting our house, and it crashes through our glass table. And maybe it's not luck, it's these near misses. This tree branch was about this big around. It was the length. We live in a 2-story house. It was the length of the house. I mean, and the way that it happened, it just bumped into our house instead of coming through the window. My husband was asleep in the bed right in front of the window. I mean, he would have been killed. And it's those kinds of things that I look at with the weather. It's like it's a
Yeah.
horrible weather, but there's a protection around us. It's a near miss again, but by golly, we were lucky. Because in the United States, when there's a tornado, we typically have a warning. We have the warning system. It didn't go off, and this was probably an F0. It was a very small one, but it was enough that it caused some serious damage. We rent, so we didn't have to pay for it. The landlord did. Ha ha. But it broke a table. It didn't break the window that my daughter was standing in front of. It didn't break the window where my husband was asleep. So I looked
Unbelievable. But see,
at
some people would look at that and think that is the unluckiest thing I can imagine happening. Right? Some people never have even that experience. But
yeah,
because you embrace the way that you embrace life and recognize that all these things that happen and that how lucky you were, you've looked on that from a positive point of view and come up with, God, we were so lucky. It's not what I would call it. We're moving then. Come on, pack your bags, let's go. Right?
and well, and it's like when I was a child, I was a baby. And it's actually my first memory as a child. And that's what I think is so funny, that this is my first memory. And it took years to connect it. But I'm in the bathtub. We lived in Oklahoma, which, by the way, is like number one place for tornadoes. And you don't have basements in Oklahoma because of the ground. I'm sitting in the basement with my elder brother, not in the basement, in the bathtub. But we're fully dressed in the bathtub. And my memory, because there's stuffed animals and my memory is this is the funnest night I've ever had, because I'm in here with all these things. I'm playing with my big brother. This is so cool.
Right.
And my mom is sitting on the toilet. I remember she's holding my baby brother, who is an infant. And what had happened is there was a horrible tornado. Thank God nobody died, but there were several houses destroyed. My dad had was actually flying in a plane. He had landed and he was driving. He said normally getting home from the airport was 40 minutes. He said he got there in 15 because they had heard on the radio where this tornado hit. The street before our street, it was gone. Houses gone, nothing. It skipped over us. The next row of houses were gone. And that's what it was. It's that
You
Crazy.
think, so you see, when your dad, who didn't believe in anything spiritual, yeah, when he had that experience, there must have been some praying to God, or at least surely on that drive home to see if his whole family was still alive. You know what? I guess he didn't talk about it because that must, I can only imagine it must have shaken him and thought, God, I'm so lucky that my family are all okay. Surely it must have changed his perspective slightly.
I guess it might have, but I mean, they go to church. We grew up Christian. Um, we had prayers and things, but no, I mean, like, I've never seen him pray except in the church setting. I've never seen him say, other than like we say, "Oh, thank God," as a throwaway. I've never seen him or heard him talk in a spiritual way about that experience, other than I was so glad my family was alive, and haha, it probably took a few years off my life. Um, that drive. Excuse the noise. The ice cream truck is coming
Yeah,
by.
excellent, lovely.
Excuse me, the ice cream.
That's so funny. That's just
But
lovely, that is. I just can't, because it, to me, I can't imagine having that experience and not having a shift in your whole, appreciation of life and appreciation of your family and your children and your wife and everything
yeah,
from that
I
experience.
and maybe it's just that he's that private. But yeah, but those are those coincidences, those weird coincidences for us. Like, why was our house spared?
It's a massive life-saving, life-threatening situation, and yet you were spared.
We were spared, totally spared. Um, and I guess that's part of those lessons of compassion and humility. Like we were spared. We were the lucky ones that walked away.
See, it makes me think it was about your dad. It makes me think it was, like when you watch all these TV films and there's, somebody's got to learn a lesson and it's the dad that has to recognize what he's so nearly lost for him to really appreciate it. Like It's a Wonderful Life, or those Christmassy programs where the dad is just taking everything for granted and going through the routine, and then they have a massive sort of shift in, like an epiphany. Oh my God, everything is so important here. I should appreciate it all more. That's what that was. As you were telling that story, that was how I was interpreting that, because it must have, of all those people, and your mum must have been so scared
Oh, I
looking
can't.
after those. You can't know.
No, I mean, for her three babies, it's just her and these three babies, and oh my God, it's right there. Um, yeah, and they talk about it as something that they kind of laugh about,
This
like.
is it, but that's where you've got it from, isn't it? And that's the little alarm going off to let us know we've been doing this for an hour. How are you feeling about just answering the last few questions? Are you still a good to go? Are you still okay for
I
time?
I am still good. I don't know if you want me to talk about the ghost sightings, the ghost seeing ghosts. If
Yes,
you want me
please.
to.
Yep, yeah, if you don't
Okay.
mind, if that's okay.
All right. So yes, I've had experiences where I have seen ghosts, and I have been contacted. This goes back to when I was pregnant with my son, right? And piggybacking on that with auras. So I was in church and I was watching my minister. He was talking, and as he's talking, I noticed this purple aura around him. And I didn't know auras wave, but as he's speaking, it waves, and it's almost like it's alive. It's just this gorgeous, rich purple, which
Would you call it a light or a cloud of color? How would you describe it?
I would cloud of color is a better term for it. But it is like light, like
Like sort of really, it's difficult to describe the color.
yeah, it was probably it on the edges. It was probably like an aubergine as it got closer to him, mixing with like lavenders and things like it. But it was rich. It was very rich purple, and from what I understand through my study, that means spirituality. Well, it
Naturally.
was yeah. I mean,
Hmm.
you're talking about a minister. And I cannot remember what he said. I was so involved in watching what was happening and watching this just it was waves of this purple coming off of him, and power behind that. And as I'm looking, all of a sudden I can see the dead, the spirits just sitting there. And they all looked opalescent. They were shades of pastels. And there were forms of humans in the pews where people weren't. And they were part of this energy, part of this moment that I'm witnessing. And it's just realizing that as he is speaking, he is so powerful in his energy, and what he puts out in the universe, it is drawing this other energy to him. And it was an incredible experience. And I'm just sitting there going, tapping my husband, I see dead people. It sounds like I'm an M. Night Shyamalan movie, but it's true. And it was incredible to see this. And my husband could sense it off of me. Like, he totally believed me.
Knew something was happening.
And before all of this happened, when I was first found out I was pregnant, I had gone to the hospital because I have a condition there. I bleed when I'm pregnant. So that kind of makes things a little scary. And I had gone and I was told I had miscarried. Well, happy story. He's 14 upstairs. I did not miscarry. He's a healthy 14-year-old boy. But at the time, obviously, that was very, very impactful. It was really a lot. And my husband would work nights.
Again, that fear of loss, the fear of losing the most precious thing to you.
And
Again,
this was our second. So I known what the experience was, and to think I've lost this life, and I know you shouldn't feel this way, but the guilt, did I do something? Was it something I did? All of that. It's just overwhelming. And my husband had gone to work, and my mother-in-law had come to stay with me. And this is the one who was very, very spiritual. And she and I were just kind of laying in bed. She was trying to calm me down because it was really late at night. And let me set up how my house looked at that time. I had a bedroom, and there's a loft across from my bedroom. And then there is a staircase that led down to the foyer. So she says, it's late, I gotta go, and your husband will be home soon. And I said, okay. So she leaves, and she leaves the light on downstairs in the foyer, and that show light up. So as I'm laying there, and as you lay there, you can see light behind your eyelids. And I'm just laying in the bed. I'm not asleep. I can't sleep. And I see the light, and then I don't see the light. It's gone. It's black, pitch black behind what I see. So I open my eyes, and in the loft, staring back at me, is a black shadow. It's the form of a human. There's no eyes. There's no defining characteristics. But I see the shadow, and it looks at me, and it tilts its head, and it looks at me, and I look at him or her. And there's a moment that happens between us that happens on a level I don't know. But as I'm looking at them, I am not afraid. I tell this story to people, and they're terrified. They're absolutely terrified. And I know this is a message for me. And I'm just enthralled. And the person's looking at me. And then my husband comes home, and you know how garage doors lift up and you can hear it. I hear the garage door lift up. And it turns their head like this and leans over the half wall and turns back to me. And we are just watching each other, and they walk down the way and disappear. So my husband comes home, and I'm like, you will not believe what just happened. And at that moment, I knew everything was okay. My son was not dying. I didn't lose my son. It was not a miscarriage. Turned out it was a really bad UTI. But that was this moment. And I just, it was probably the most beautiful moment of my life. because in that moment, I knew I was okay. I knew my son was okay. And I knew there was a God. And it was like that what I was always told, the spiritual journey was going to be something I needed to figure out. In that moment, I knew there was an afterlife. I knew there was something more. It was incredible. Um, and so after that, that's when I'm seeing all these auras. I'm having the moment with my niece and the moment in church. Um, and then I've just had some other crazy experiences. I went ghost hunting
On purpose. Mm.
on purpose. It was so much fun. My there's a winery out here that used to be an Oddfellows home, which was a group that they have here. I don't know if they had those in England. So yeah, the Oddfellows home, I don't know what to describe them, but they would have like orphanages. And there's a little bit of a spiritual thing with the Oddfellows. They're a little bit with the occult, is from what I understand, at least the belief. They were very religious. But this was an orphanage, and they had an old home for the elderly, and there was a hospital, and there are all these different buildings, and there, of course, the buildings with limestone, and with how that holds that energy. And the first one, it was crazy because my friend had gone with me, and my friend, somebody was saying my friend's name, her son's name, and they were saying Jude, 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 and we're kind of okay. And then there was this other moment, like the door slammed on her, and we're like, "Oh, this is kind of cool," Little did we know how crazy it was about to get. So we go to the hospital, and what was funny is there was a POW camp there, and there was a German soldier that had been in this hospital and passed away, unfortunately. And they said, "Does anybody speak German?" Well, I do.
No way.
I'm actually a German teacher, so that's where that comes
Wow,
from.
what are the chances of you being there?
I
Again,
know.
that was meant to happen, wasn't it?
Oh, it was crazy. And he says to me, he says, "Oh, we've done Hitler speeches." I'm like, "Oh, hold up, no, that's going to bring negative energy," because I'm a big believer. There are demons, there are bad energies. You don't bring that and invite that in. And I said, "No, I speak German, so let's use my non-demon bringing German." So we get upstairs, and there's a big room, and there's a dark hall, and branching off of it. And I'm like, "Okay, I'll stand here." I'm chatting with people. My sister-in-law's there. She doesn't believe in any of this. And she's writing a book, so she's really excited about writing a character. And I say, "Okay," I start saying things like, "I speak German, is there anybody with us? What's your name?" Those basic things. And we're getting nothing. But down the hall, the group we were with had gone down the hall because they said there's this shadow that moves in front of the window all the time. And of course, I saw darkness. I'm going to be perfectly honest. It was black. It was just black. I'm seeing
Nothing.
nothing. But I'm like, "Okay, I'll go down," because they asked me to come down. And they have some spiritual devices. One is one that pulls up words,
Mm.
and another one, it's what I like to describe it is, when you're looking for a stud in a house and it has the red lights and it goes up to the
Oh,
green
yeah.
lights, right?
Mm.
They use that. It's called a K2. And so they put the device in my hand. I think it's called an ovulus, and it has the words. And I'm just sitting there with it loosely in my hand. So if anybody looks over my shoulder, they can see it. And they start having me ask questions. And I start getting answers. Like one of the questions I asked, "Did you have children?" And it shows up the word Mädchen in German, which is girl. Um, and so, like this ovulus, we're in America, it's showing up a German word. That's kind of crazy. Um, and I can't even remember all the questions I asked. That's what's crazy. It's like it all gets jumbled in my head. But as I'm standing there and I'm holding it, I am not me. There is so much energy around me. My hairs on my arm are just electrified. I feel this heavy weight enveloping me, just surrounding me. I am shaking. I'm asking these questions. And as I'm asking the questions, they say if it picks up energy, it goes from red to green. Um, the lower the energy, it might just bounce around the red and yellow lights. But as it gets higher and higher, the more energy. Every question I was asking, it was going green, 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 green. Like it was going off the charts. And I'm sitting here going, this is crazy. This experience is insane. I have a feeling of overwhelming sadness. I'm terrified. And I was asking, are you sad? Are you scared? Yes, yes. You know, it's going green, green. And then the last question they ask is, are you frightened? And all of a sudden, it goes, yes, I feel something smack my head. And I automatically look up. I'm like, what? Like, did the ceiling just cave in? I mean, we're in this old place. And that moment, like the connection was broken. And the people around us said, oh my God, look. There was an orb, a giant orb went down the hall. They're all amazed at this orb going down the hall. Meanwhile, I have just made some crazy, insane connection with this person, this entity. I leave the hallway and I come down, and it's just, it's like a bathtub, and you just let the water out. I mean, all those emotions, they just drained from me. And all that I was feeling, the electrified air, this overwhelming sadness, it just all dissipates. And the man who's running it, he looks at me, he's like, you have got to close yourself off or you're going to bring something home. And I said, I'm already working on that. I've said, you're not welcome to come. You need to pass on. And I started telling it, pass on, you cross. And I didn't take anything home with me because I am closed off in that sense. And it wasn't malevolent. This is a sad human being. This energy that's left behind is sadness and frightened. It did not harm me. It did not mean harm. But as we leave this area, we're going to go to another room. So we're still not done. And I walk through and I feel spiderwebs. And now you got to understand, like 15 people walked ahead of me. And I'm walking through and I'm feeling spiderwebs. I'm like, this is really odd. And the woman next to me said, that's a sign of spiritual energy, like that residual energy. It just makes you feel like spiderwebs. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I can do this again. So I get into this huge room. It's the operating theater. And it's fairly, like the moonlight is coming in and some light from the walkway, but it's dark. It's that kind of silvery twilight is the best way to describe it. And we're able to see movement of each other because that's kind of important. And there's, in the middle of the room is a music box, and it's been set up in such a way that if anybody got close to it, it would play. Oh no. So it's doing that. And he demonstrates it for us. And we're just standing around kind of going, and he's asking questions and questions. Nothing's happening. And he's like, try one in German. And so I explained to the spirits how this thing works. It goes off. The guy looks at me, I look at him, I'm like, I don't know, dude. And so he says again, he starts asking questions in English. I repeat in German. It plays. It does it 4 times. We eventually we're like, we have to go. We're sorry, we have to go. And then it finally stopped. But it was 4 times this thing went off. And trust me, I can see everybody in the room. And they're kind of all looking at me like I'm crazy.
Like as
That
if it's
was
you or something about you. Yeah.
right. Nobody was moving once that started playing. I mean, nobody was even like shifting their weight. They're just kind of staring at
Frozen.
that. Yeah. Um, so that's probably one of the realest
Did you
moments.
feel when you left there? Did you get a sense that the entity had gone, crossed over? Did you feel that, or not?
Unfortunately, I don't think he crossed over. I have a theory that we leave bits of pieces of us. It's not us that's left behind. Maybe it's a little bit of our soul, but it isn't what we think of our soul, of what makes us us. But some energy is stronger than others. And I believe that this energy lurking around, it's still there. I don't know if we could get it to cross. Um, I am a believer that when you find that your place is haunted, that you find something is a haunting, you get that thing to cross. They're trapped. They should not be there. We should not be feeling them. And I think it's our duty as people is to help them cross. Um, and so I think that energy, that person is still there. They're trapped. They're going to need something more than me to get them to cross. Um, but yeah, and it's we have so many weird things in our my life. It's like there's a scent in my house, and we've had conversations with the scent, but it's a rose perfume, and it's attached to my husband because it's always near him, and I call it his girlfriend. I'm like, she's sweet on you. It's like, and we've had conversations with it. You know, go on. You don't need to stay here. Um, when my grandfather passed, I smelled him. He smoked pipes, and I smelled him several times. And one day I said, Grams, it's okay. I'm okay. You don't need to stay with me. And I never smelled him again. I think he
Oh,
was just,
letting you know he was there.
he was there. He was lingering. He just wanted to know. Um,
And he
and
wanted
he
you
just,
to know. He wanted you to know that he was
oh,
there.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I was able to tell him. And I think, yeah, because he hasn't been back. Um,
It's very powerful, isn't it, when you can smell things because you can't imagine that. You're not imagining the smell, are you?
no. And I can't smell pipes without thinking of him. It's a very distinct, very strong smell.
Exactly. And it's not as if anyone else would be smoking a pipe in the house. You can't be imagining that, it's come in the window. It's literally come out of nowhere.
Right. Because, yeah, it wasn't like it was right next to a window. Exactly.
No,
And the same thing with this rose perfume. It's just, you smell it in the
it's really
house.
strange, isn't it?
It is. We do not understand what's out there. Our eyes, our bodies do not show us. And it's important to listen to what we have because when you get those feelings of dread, when you have your prickles on your arm, that is those things telling you and speaking to you.
Your warning signs,
Absolutely.
your early alert warning signs. That's like your tornado alarm system for your body going off, isn't it, really?
Absolutely.
Okay, so the last final question. Have you heard of the Mandela effect?
Yes.
The
Mm-hmm.
strange thing where people remember things differently. Have you ever had anything along those lines where you can remember something changing in your life? Like have you ever had sort of a literal reality shift where you think it's 10 o'clock in the morning and then you live between 10 and 11 and you go back in the other room and it's still 10 o'clock or anything like that?
Not really. Little small things that I swear have happened, and
Like you put it
like
down to like, oh, it's my mind. You just sort of dismiss it.
I must be remembering it wrong. Those kinds of things. I don't have a shift in my perspective.
No.
So
Or you found something. Have you ever found an identical thing? So, like you've got a rabbit's foot or something that you carry around, and then you've gone out and you found a rabbit's foot somewhere. Have you ever found an item that you've already got one of?
Mm, no, I don't think so. I'm trying to think. I mean,
You'd remember. If that had
yeah.
happened to you, you'd remember because again, it's one of those events, isn't it? The sort of thing that you do remember. Well, it's been lovely to speak with you. Is there
Yeah.
any, if you think of any other stories that you haven't mentioned, we'll have to do this again if you feel up to it at some stage in a few months or whenever. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but you know. So I'll say bye. Thank you for coming on, and hopefully we'll see you again. Okay.
Yes.
So I'll wave goodbye, but I won't turn the thing off yet, so I can just talk to you about the about what we're going to do next. So how are you feeling now after that little session of chatting about your stuff? How do you feel about all the things you've said?
Oh, I love it. I can talk about this stuff for hours. So
You feel okay? Good. Okay. It's been fabulous. I'm so happy that we've managed to do this together. It's great.
yes, I'm so glad I found you. Well, you found me.
I found you.
Yes. I always laugh because normally things come in my Instagram and I'm like, oh look, they're going to advertise my book, and and
Do
then
you
I
get
see, oh yeah,
what a
uh,
combo? What a combination.
I know.
The
I
author,
was so
the
excited.
author, I know, author, and you've got all these spiritual experiences. Excellent.
I know. I
Perfect
need to
combo.
talk about those things more. It's crazy. Well, like I was saying, I had it this Saturday. I look and I see what looks like a cat. I'm in this old house. It was in an Airbnb, and with some friends, we were doing a writers group thing. And I'm talking to someone, so my head's turned, and I see what looks like a cat, and I'm like, "That's not a cat." It was a black mist, but more solid than mist, just dirt. And then their lights start flickering on and off and on and off. And I'm sitting there going, I'm not telling them. I don't know how they are. That ghost. They're spending the night in this house. Again, I knew it wasn't evil or anything like that. It's
That's
just this.
so funny. You're sitting there, I'm not just not going to tell them.
I will tell her later and be like, by the way. And she'll probably go,
Freak out.
Stacia.
Yeah. Oh, that's brilliant. That's lovely. Well, keep writing it down. Keep doing a little journal and write down these things that happen. And then when we get to do this again, if you're happy to do it again in a few months' time or whenever, we'll have another list of things to talk about and
Absolutely.
experiences. Is that
Yeah.
okay?
I'm going to have to think about more if I've had.
Yeah, see what happens. Well, now we've been talking about all these things that I've been talking about to you. Those things will happen as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I definitely need to go ghost hunting again. Another good story.
Take a video, take a cameraman with you, take someone with a phone that can record it.
Definitely. I'm sad I didn't have the recording. What's funny is my friend has been back to this place, and it's the same group that does the ghost hunting. They do it very frequently. They still talk about me. She's like, and when she went back, she's like, that was my friend. And we're like, maybe we need to go ghost hunting
Maybe
with
you
them.
have to go again. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
take
Definitely.
take a video of it.
Oh,
Something to think about. Anyway,
yeah.
enjoy your afternoon. It's
You
been
start
lovely
your
to meet
evening.
you.